Hello and welcome to today's Connect University. I'm really excited to be presenting on this report. Here at HandsOn Connect Cloud Solutions, we don't just deliver an excellent volunteer engagement solution. We really work to educate our customers, not just about our technology, but other SalesForce resources that are available to them to help them expand their business. And so today, we're really excited to be talking about SalesForce's tool called Joined Reports, which can really help organizations deliver some quality analytics that we'll jump into today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Art, and my role here is to help you as our customers be successful through series like the Connect University or through our Connect Exchange, where we share partners and other tools that you can use to expand your business. Since we do have a compressed time today, we are recording this session, and this is intended to give you a highlight of what Joined Reports can do for you and think through some options. If you need some directions or some further assistance, please don't hesitate to jump into one of our labs, and our team would be able to help you take this to the next level. Of course, there's lots of documentation out there from SalesForce as well, and Trailhead. So one thing that this is really building on is our series on reports. So we've done a number of reports, Connect Universities already. So we really encourage you to use those to refresh on some of this, because these are all kind of building on each other. And so reviewing those may help you understand some of the items we're going to be talking about. So what are some good examples of joined reports? Today we're going to kind of walk through some of the existing HandsOn Connect summary reports and how you can convert those into joined reports to get some deeper analytics for your organization. Some of these examples are looking at volunteer engagement trends, being able to see, well, how many volunteers did I have last month? How is this month going? And how many do I have signed up for next month? To be able to do some projecting and such to see, what your engagement is. You can do year-to-year comparisons, kind of say, how many volunteers did I engage last year and how am I progressing this year? Or you can also do those month-to-month or quarter-to-quarter. So you can say, August of 2016 compared to August of 2017 and things like that. And of course, we all know that engaging our volunteers and moving them into donors is a key goal of many nonprofits. And so being able to look at your constituents and stakeholders and see how are those individuals splitting out, how many are volunteers, how many are donors, and how many are both. So we're going to look at some of those examples today. So the first thing I want to do is, if you do not have joined reports when you get to the reports, the reason is it hasn't been enabled. So I've enabled it here, so it's not going to be able to see exactly what it is. But if you go to the setup menu and go under reports, there's an option for reports and dashboard settings. And there's a feature in here called enhanced reports. And you want to enable that and make sure that that's working in order for you to access those joined reports. That was something that I had to do in preparing for this presentation in this demo environment. And so wanted to call that out to help you guys get started. So now let's look at reports. So with the HandsOn Connect product, we have a report called Grant Summary Current Year. And in this report, it gives us the total number of volunteer opportunities, number of occurrences and shifts, volunteers or the connections, and how many total volunteers have registered, including guest volunteers, and the hours served. So this is a really handy report, as we know, to be able to track our current progress in the year to year. But I want to see how are we progressing compared to last year's numbers. So I'm going to go in here and hit Customize. And from here, instead of Summary Report, I now have a new Joined Report option. So when I click on Joined Report, it's going to change the format a little bit. I want to go ahead and kind of clean up. So this is Grand Summary Current Year. Essentially, everything that was part of my summary report is now considered block 1. So I want to add a second block and be able to do those comparisons. If I look at the details, I can see that my fields is type that is kind of used to group things. So I can come over here, click up, I can type it properly. I can click type, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag it, and I'm going to move it over to this white space. And you can see that that is a green checkbox. When I let go, I now have a second block on my form. I can then also add the same formulas. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now in mass. So I'm going to select all those, move them over here, and drop them in. I can now hide the details because it's just a lot of noise and clutter, but I'm starting to see information, and I now have a second block. So here I can now create the filters. So I want the filters to pretty much match what I have so that I'm comparing apples to apples. And so I want to say end date. So we know that there's a lot of different options here. So I want to change this to previous calendar year. You can see the dates are dynamically updated. And then I want to add the filters. So I want to do the status equals active. And then I want to add that the attendance status is not equal to the decline, not attended and canceled, because I only want to look at volunteers that actually were engaged last year. And so now when I run this report, let me update here, say grand summary previous year. And now when I run this report, I can get my data and look and see, of course, this is our demo instance, so we have a lot more stuff in this year than last year, but you get the idea. I can see how many records, so the records equates to number of connections or number of records in the system. But I can look and see this year, we have 169 volunteer opportunities. Last year we had 1. And I can see how many connections, how many total volunteers were registered, and how many hours were served. So this lets you take that snapshot of the data and do those year-to-year comparisons or month-to-month comparisons, which is really helpful to kind of see your growth as an organization. Of course, you can definitely minimize some of these items if you're really only focused on total registered volunteers and total hours served. You can do that as well. It also breaks it down by the type of project. So you can see, am I engaging more folks in my date and time specific versus the individually scheduled referral type opportunities. So that's one example of how you can use this. And of course, anytime you do a new report, you may want to save it. So we can do grand summary year to year. And then as a good administrator, you always do a description. For this current year. Obviously, you probably want to do a better description, and you want to make sure you're putting this in the folder system that you want. So we're going to do this as a managerial report. And so now I have that saved. And when the calendar switches to 2018, it'll automatically update to compare 2017 to 2018 data. So another way, this was a report that I just created, very simple report on connections. So I can see it's purely just looking at the connections. It doesn't have any information about the volunteer opportunities or the occurrences. It's just how many folks have actually signed up for the opportunity. So I could see that it's filtered for the current fiscal quarter and summarized by month. So in here, I can come in here. And one of the great things about the join reports is that it doesn't really matter what, or there's no limit to how many records or joined reports I can do. So I can actually create 3 different joined reports. I can make this, I can also even move them around. So I'm going to do this previous quarter, current quarter, next quarter, right? And just like that, I can update my reports to filter the same way. So I want to do end day and time, previous fiscal quarter, end day and time, next fiscal quarter. I can now hide the details because it's not as important to me. And I can see, oh, I need to do the hours served field, need to add that in. Show the details so I can get my drop zones in here. There we go. Oh, why did I add those there? Oh, I forgot to hit summary. So I'm going to summarize this field so that I can get those roll-up totals. There we go. So now I can run the report and compare and see how am I doing to the previous quarter. So that's in my first column. I can see that I engaged a total of 326 volunteers for 61 hours. This quarter, I'm at 156. And next quarter, I already have a head start with 75 folks signed up. Of course, no hours are served because it is in the future. So again, you can use this, again, to compare your trends right now, or do year-to-year or quarter-to-quarter comparisons, or month-to-month. So just some really easy tools and resources there for you. Now, the last thing I want to show you, because this to me is a really awesome trick and power of the joined report, is the volunteer engagement report. So this one shows me all my volunteers and how many hours and things they've been engaged in. Lots of information here. So the first thing I'm going to do when I customize, it's actually want to kind of clean this up a little bit, because I really want to focus not so much on the details, but on the number of hours that they've served. So I'm going to clean that out here. So right now I have this report. It shows me the name of the volunteer, the total number of the connections, and the total hours served, right? Now I'm going to add joined report. But what I really want to see is the power of how am I doing at converting those volunteers into donors. So previously, we just took the exact same record and we just kind of added the field over here to create a block. In this case, I'm actually going to be reporting on a completely different item, right? I'm not reporting on connections. I'm not reporting on volunteer opportunities. I want to capture donations. So I'm actually going to have to add a completely different report type. So up here at the top, I'm going to click Add Report Type. And we know that donations are stored as opportunities. These are a standard SalesForce tool. So I'm going to hit OK. And you'll see that now there's a different block and it's a colored greenlit. So that shows me that it's a different report type than the first block. Again, I'm going to kind of clean up some of this information here. And those are things that are just kind of part of the standard reports. I want to summarize this field. And so now I can start seeing how my folks have engaged over both volunteers and donations. keyboard would work for me today. So from here, I can also customize. You know, I want to look at only connections that are taking place in the current fiscal year. I want to look at only opportunities that have been processed. So we mark those as closed won, again, in the current fiscal year. And when I run this report, I can now visually see who, oh, let me hide the details here, who has been engaged. So I can see that Abby has volunteered a number of times and given a number of hours, and she's also made a financial contribution this year. I can see that Alfred Pennyworth has done the same. I can see that there's a lot of folks that are very engaged but haven't become donors. If there's a case in here, kind of like Luis on our team, he's contributed but hasn't yet to volunteer. So this really lets me kind of start to see who my folks are that have contributed. I can also take this even a step further, and I'll kind of illustrate it without going into the full details on it. But what I can do is I can actually, you see here, these are the common fields, and these are all the fields that are related to each. So I can now bring over the amount field and create another block of opportunities. But this time, I want it to be items that closed in the previous fiscal year. All right. And if I wanted to, I could do the same for my volunteers. So I can bring over, I'll use the quick find, hours served. And now not only can I do a comparison from this year, but I can also look to see how my engagement was from last year to this year for the same folks. So when I run this report, it really gives me some really great data to look at and see, oh, you know what, Abby or Alfred, you know, volunteered this year and gave this year. He didn't volunteer last year, but he actually contributed $500 last year. And so I can start doing my campaigns and outreach tied with that information, and also knowing who the opportunities are. Like Diana Prince has given this year more than what she gave last year. And so I can look and thank Diana appropriately, see that she's becoming more engaged with our organization, and reach out to see if there's maybe some other opportunities to engage her. So that kind of shows you some of the power and potential of joined reports. I hope that you found that to be exciting and interesting and helpful for your organization, for ways to be able to measure the impact and be able to report to your stakeholders your growth. Don't forget, next Thursday, we will be doing a special Connect exchange with Cirrus Insight Flight Path. This is a tool that allows you to do some marketing and outreach from your inbox. And then the following week, Libby will be back here and doing duplication management to help you with tools to keep your data clean when it's being imported or managed by your organization. You can always register for these and other Connect Exchange and Connect Universities at HandsOnConnect.org. And as I showed you earlier in the presentation, we do have a library of past webinars that can also be found at HandsOnConnect.org/past-webinars. We thank you all for joining us today and look forward to seeing you at a future Connect Exchange or Connect University session.